You're listening to NacChat with Amy Mahaffey, straight from the city of Nacogdoches, where we chat all things Nac. We make any topic fun, and I'll take you behind the scenes of the oldest town in Texas.
All right, everybody, we are back with episode 3 of the awesome City of Nac podcast.
Yay!
And we are here with our city manager, Mr. Jim Jeffers. Welcome.
Thank you.
Are you excited?
I'm so excited to be here. I just can't stand it.
I feel like you're lying to me.
No. Look in my eyes and you'll know that I'm not.
Fine. So we're just going to chat today. Hence the name of the podcast, NacChat. And
did you come up with that on your own?
I had help.
Okay.
We had a lot of perspective names, and this was the winner.
So was that one of those sessions to where you had 16 interns in your office?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Just one. I need all my interns.
You had the smart one in here?
Mm-hmm.
Which is?
Cammie, who's sitting right here by us.
Going to see if we got the right answer on that one.
So tell our listeners how you ended up in Nacogdoches.
Well, I was in Plainview, Texas for 20 years, had an empty nest, and it was time for a change. And I had a former city manager that encouraged me to apply for the position in Nacogdoches, and I told him no, West Texans can't survive in East Texas. And he said, oh, you can. And so I applied, and actually it was the last of 3 interviews that I had in other communities, and it was the one that worked out, and we're so glad to be here.
So how many cities have you managed, city manager?
I have to count. So there was Fritz, Texas. That was my first job, a city of about 1,700 northeast of Amarillo, sitting on Lake Meredith. That was probably too much information. Then I slipped across the border to Portales, New Mexico, then Plainview, and so Nacogdoches is my 4th city.
And so I would imagine that city managing, is that a verb, in East Texas, in a town the size of Nacogdoches, is different than what happened in Fritz, Texas?
Every city is different, but I did. People asked me when I first came here what the difference between East Texas and West Texas was, and I said, well, people are basically people, but in West Texas, people will tell you what they want, and then they will threaten you, such as, well, I want my street fixed, and if you don't get my street fixed, I'm going to go to the newspaper. In East Texas, that we tend to threaten first, and then we ask what we want, but people are basically the same, no matter where I've been.
How long have you lived in Nacogdoches?
14 years, maybe 13 years.
I like the people in East Texas.
I love the people in East Texas. We're going to retire here, so this is home for us.
That's good. And how many grandbabies do you have?
Oh, 9.
Baseball team.
Yes, that's why I had to go. How many are on the baseball team? And then there's 9 grandbabies.
And they keep you busy?
Well, we have 7 in Austin and 2 in Houston, and they're just far enough away that you don't be dropped on unexpectedly, and then they're close enough that you can see them when you want to see them. And so on March the 11th, we're going to go to Cohen's first birthday party in Austin, and it'll be a big shindig.
Well, did your kids, some of them are in government work as well, aren't they?
Have two of the girls. One of them is a deputy executive director for the Texas Municipal League, and it seemed like only yesterday that she called and she said, Dad, what's a TML? And I explained it to her, and she said, well, there's an internship position. It was actually a law clerk, and she was pre-law at the time, and so she went to work for them as a junior at the University of Texas in Austin. I'm sorry to mention that in front of you.
It's okay.
And she never has left, and now she's a deputy executive director, and so she's done very well. And then we have a chief of staff for the state representative out of Richardson, Texas, and she's been doing that for maybe 10 years, not as chief of staff, but she's been in the legislature, and she's kind of owed by those chief of staff positions in Austin, but she loves it and she's passionate about it.
So, did you expect your kids to end up in this work?
No. When they were little and somebody asked, well, what does your daddy do? And Rachel, the eldest, she was in a Miss Petite beauty contest and had a lisp, and they asked her on stage what daddy did, and she said that he's an idiot manager. And so I've kind of held on to that tag. But as the kids got older, they would say, well, what does your dad do? He says, oh, he plays on the computer, he talks on the phone, and he goes to meetings. And I find great satisfaction that when their kids are asked, what do their parents do? The answer is the same. And so I think in today's societies with computers and cell phones and meetings, I think that probably pretty well sums up what all of our jobs are.
That's true. If you were to get specific and tell people at home what you did day to day, what would you say?
Well, one of the things that I love about this job is that each day is different. But, you know, financial matters, personnel matters take up a large part of what I do, and I don't do it by myself. We have a fantastic team, and you know, I have one department head that I'm particularly fond of, more so than others, and we'll let the listeners decide who that might be, because I think with the way that somebody's beaming, that they've concluded who that individual is.
Probably Steve Bartlett.
Okay. But the other part of it is solving problems, whether it's someone with a problem with a street, or a problem with inadequate water pressure, and it just changes from day to day. And those type of issues tend to take up a lot of time, and so it's not unusual that we have to put in some hours either before traditional hours or after traditional hours in order to take care of the things that need to be taken care of. And a large part of it is working with the city council, who establishes policy. They're the city manager's boss. The manager serves at the pleasure of the council, so I can be exited for any reason or no reason. And that's an important part of this form of government, the council manager form of government. The council is in charge, they're in control. And we have an election coming up. And it's important that I think that the citizens pay attention to who's running for each office, and it shouldn't be a popularity contest like it was when we were in junior high and running for student council. You know, we have a budget in excess of $50 million, and we affect everybody's lives on a day-to-day basis. Therefore, it's important that you understand what an individual candidate has to offer by being a part of the city council.
If you were to tell me what traditional business hours meant, what is that? Because I don't think you keep those. I've never asked you about this, but
well, traditional business hours are 8 to 5. Right.
But you don't do that.
No, that's why I put in hours before and I put in hours after in order to take care of things that have to be taken care of.
I feel like...
Because like during office hours, you got to do podcasts, for example.
You're welcome.
Well, thank you very much.
But when you're in here entertaining me, you can't answer emails and catch up. And
right.
And you interact with citizens a lot.
That's part of the job that I enjoy the most, whether or not it's addressing a problem or whether or not it's accepting a compliment.
We live in a town that is just small enough that people corner you up at the grocery store and Lowe's department store. And how often does that happen to you?
You know, over the years, I've learned to deflect someone that wants to dominate your time, that you're the only person on the face of the earth at that particular point when you're running an errand and you have a spouse that expects you back home. It happens on a regular basis, but I try to take care of business in a polite, professional way. But when I'm off, even though I'm working 24/7. That's part of the deal. But you try to accommodate without letting that dominate your time, because I've been cornered before in the past and have been stuck there for over an hour, and other people are expecting you to be home.
I got caught at the grocery store in the middle of the day the other week. I was there for work getting something at like lunchtime, and I saw somebody in the parking lot at like 1:30 after I was done, and they were like, I was like, I'm on my lunch, and they looked at their clock, and I was like, I've been on my lunch hour, and I need to go, but I'm still here talking to you, which I like talking to people, and that's
yes, you do.
Thank you for that. That's part of the fun of the job, I think.
Oh, absolutely. And to be anonymous in a grocery store or to be anonymous in a restaurant can be kind of lonely.
Mm-hmm.
And so for people to say hello, for someone to ask a question, that's part of it.
If you wanted our citizens at home to know one thing about the city, what would it be? If you only could choose one thing.
Well, I have to talk about my bosses and how passionate they are about what it is that they do. And I think without exception that with both the mayor and the city council, they have adopted a position which I think is appropriate, is it's not about them, it's what's best for the city. And so time and time again, they can make what is a difficult decision, but they're doing it for the right reasons. They're doing it because what is best for Nacogdoches long term.
Well, I think we are going to wrap up this episode, but I really want to keep talking about that in part 2. Just stay tuned, listeners, and to hear more.
Yahoo!
Well, with that, we are going to bring back our favorite city planner, Larissa Philpott, for the best segment ever. Time for the rumor mill. Yay! I want to do our Facebook reviews today from our City of Nacogdoches government page.
Okay, I'm going to move my chair so I can see the computer.
So this guy, Patrick Capps, says, as a native Nacogdochian, is that right? I'm still new here.
It's that is super controversial. We could do a whole segment of how people say the word Nacogdoches and Nacogdochian. I don't know. I would say Nacogdochian, but our city manager Jim Jeffers says Nacogdoches, so he may say it differently.
Nacogdochesian. I don't know.
That sounds like Louisiana. I don't like that.
Okay.
Nacogdochian.
Okay. Patrick Capps was born here.
Yes.
Is what he's native to Nacogdoches. I don't know how he would like us to pronounce
that. He's a Ben.
Oh, don't even get me started on that. Okay. He says he cares deeply about his hometown. He would love to see it grow and prosper. It is a nice place to raise a family. Many wonderful people here. On the flip side, he would love to see a more diverse group of businesses and industries come here, especially those with which hire convicted felons. Keep up the good work, Nacktown.
That is a good tip.
We don't ever get any nice reviews. I'm so excited about that.
Yeah, that was a nice one. And I know that hiring convicted felons is something that population and families that have, some folks with troubled past, they struggle with.
Sure.
They struggle with places to work.
Because they're a felon forever and they still need a job.
Right. And maybe they, made a bad choice at some point in their life. But I believe the Nacogdoches Workforce Commission works with those folks. And there's some companies that, specialize in that and say, we're here to give a helping hand up and try to, help you rehabilitate. So that is something we will work on, and I'll try to find information about
that's a good idea
with the Nacogdoches Workforce Commission and get back to you, Patrick Capps. Thanks.
I love it. So there are a lot of nice people here.
There really are a lot of nice people.
I like it.
I'm glad
People
you
are friendly. I know
they are. At Wines World this weekend, it was nice to see everybody was so happy to be downtown. We actually had a couple that stopped in on their way through Nacogdoches. And they stumbled upon tickets.
Really?
And they literally said to me, this is like being in a movie.
Aww.
Because they said it was so cute, and they just stumbled on it, and it was such a great small town, and everybody was so happy, and there was music, and they said, you don't see this in many places anymore. So it is a happy place, and we had
polka dotted tablecloths.
It was a great event.
Why not? Okay, so another review on Facebook. This one's 2 stars, so, there's not always the love being shared, but I think this is an interesting one. The town doesn't offer anything to locals unless you're retired and your family owns more than half of the town. It's okay if you like the simple yet boring life, but other than that, nothing to offer. We do the majority of our shopping, dining, and leisure and surrounding areas before here. It should grow. Allow a Cheddar's, an actual mall instead of the hallway we have now. Bring more jobs here besides E-Tech, Pilgrim's Pride, and SFA if you know someone to get hired on. Okay, there's so many things right now. Okay. I appreciate Brittany Johnson saying this because it's not wrong completely, but I want to address it because I think that her opinion is valuable. Mm-hmm. But let's break it down.
Okay.
This town doesn't offer anything to locals unless you're retired and your family owns more than half the town.
I don't think anybody owns. Actually, I know that nobody owns more than half the town, so I think she's just being a little exaggerating there.
I think that there's a... Okay. I'm going to defend Brittany a little bit. I think there is a mentality in this community, and maybe... I always say perception is reality. So if it is believed, then there's some truth to this, whether it's true or not with statistics. But I think there's the belief that a bunch of old school Nacogdoches families make all the decisions for what comes to town.
Right.
And I don't know if that's what she's saying.
Right. No, I've heard that I've heard that a lot, and it's funny. I actually ran across that in a book that I was reading once, and I think that thought comes from a time in the 40s and 50s when decisions were made by a group of powerful men, let's say it. I'm not trashing anybody, but there was a time period. The decisions were made by a group of powerful men, and maybe they weren't always made in the most public and open of forums.
Oh, yeah.
And what this book referred to him as is the 500-pound gorilla in the room. There was this group of 500-pound gorillas, and they made decisions, and so the town went the way those 500-pound gorillas wanted them to go.
And they happened to be business owners?
Of course. Yeah. Because that's who's
interested who the leaders were in the community.
Right. And now that we have the Texas Open Meetings Act, where we don't have backroom meetings and haven't for decades, we have a much more diversified group of business owners. We have a lot of small business owners and medium business owners. That stuff doesn't happen anymore, but I'm not going to pretend like it didn't happen at some point.
Yeah.
But it was just a really long time ago.
That's true.
So...
I don't know. I will fully admit, I'm kind of addressing the next part of her statement, that we don't do a good job, and I feel like I'm part of this problem. We don't do a good job of advertising what's going on in town because you have to know where to look. I've had so many new people in town say, well, I don't even know where to get that information.
Right.
And we had a talk about this at one point because of the community calendar. We had 10 community calendars.
Right.
So we've all agreed, community organizations in town have agreed that we're all going to use the chamber calendar because that's the most populated. It's easy to submit your own event. And I feel like if maybe I want to encourage Brittany and her friends to check it out because I think there's more going on than what one would believe.
How do you get, where do you find the chamber calendar?
NacogdochesChamber.org. Okay. Is that their website? Yeah. Nacogdoches Chamber of Commerce.
It's Nacogdoches.org.
Nacogdoches.org, that's right.
Nacogdoches.org.
So, check out that calendar. And I think, maybe she'll find the spice of life there. Variety, the spice of life.
And if Brittany wants to comment back and tell us what kind of entertainment she's looking for,
we can do it.
Well, she says in the next sentence, we do the majority of our shopping, dining, and leisure and surrounding areas before here. It should grow. I'm not going to argue with you, Brittany. I would love more shopping and dining and leisure. And the city does everything, and the Nacogdoches Economic Development Corporation does everything we can to encourage it. But it's a free market economy. So a major way you can help us recruit shopping, dining, and leisure is if you do your shopping and dining and leisure in Nacogdoches.
It makes our numbers look better.
Yeah, because if you're showing Target that you're willing to drive to Lufkin to shop there, then Target's just going to keep living in Lufkin and not build here. And it's the same with, she says, allow a Cheddar's. I love Cheddar's. Yeah. I'm not going to ever do anything to discourage the Cheddars, and we couldn't. That's something else that people say you should allow so and so.
We don't say yes or no.
Yeah, yeah. As long as the property is zoned correctly and they get their building permits and they get a health permit, bring it on, Cheddars. We want you here. We want to eat those cheese fries and those Cookie Monster cookies, man.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Painkiller cocktail.
Oh, I haven't
You can
had
only
one of
have
those.
2.
Oh, they
They're
limit
so
you?
good. Uh-huh.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. No, but I do think it's important. We as the city don't say, no, you can't come here.
Right. There was a time when Applebee's requested the city council to change the hours that they served alcohol. The city council, I was at that hearing. They asked the city council to extend the hours until 2 a.m. every night of the week, I believe.
Oh. Wow.
And we had, at the city council meeting, there's only one person that spoke in support of that request, other than the folks from Applebee's. The city council was super encouraging of Applebee's. They said, we want your restaurant here, but our citizens have spoken, and the vast majority of people we've heard from don't want us to change these hours, so that's the way they voted. And so there's always this rumor that the city council told Applebee's no, and they didn't. They just said, we're not changing the alcohol hours. And actually, there were a lot of bar owners that aren't really in competition with an Applebee's, but the bar owners came and said, we don't want to extend our alcohol hours.
Oh, I see.
And so that was important to the council. They're like, these are existing businesses that are not necessarily in direct competition with this. This affects the way they do their business, and they want us to say no. So
they have to represent the people within their area.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So.
Huh. That's very interesting. Well, and I do think bring more jobs here besides E-Tech, Pilgrim's Pride, and SFA. I mean, she has a point.
She does. She does. And we're working on it every day.
So
what I would say is I love Nacogdoches for, she lists, honestly, good job, Brittany, for identifying like the top 3 of the top 5 major employers in town. But if you look at the number of small employers we have in Nacogdoches, we're a really friendly place for small businesses. Mm-hmm. And so while we have maybe 5 really large employers like those ones she listed, we have a whole bunch of really small businesses that equals
a big one.
And
I never thought about it like that.
Tell your friends, the city's easy to work with. Open a small business. If you've got a friend who, loves fashion and loves clothes and has talked about
come downtown.
Yeah, exactly. Open a boutique. So that's what I would say. I mean, yes, we would love to have somebody else that, is equivalent to Pilgrim's Pride and
sure
with the tax revenue and the number of jobs, but we work just as hard to get small businesses here too.
Hopefully we'll have good news on that front in the future. We keep growing. Yeah. That's the goal. Mm-hmm. So we appreciate all of our reviews on Facebook, good and bad, and we hope that maybe our quick little conversation today has shed some light on some things. And as always, we encourage you all to continue to write us on social media, to call us here at City Hall, send us an email, send us a tweet, send us a text, whatever way, carrier pigeon, I don't care. Mm-hmm. Just talk to us, because we love this feedback. And even when we get 2 stars and we have to clarify some things and admit where maybe we have some weaknesses, I like that we can do that. So thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.